Could I just stop you here? Did I understand you to say that a person's IQ can be raised through Scientology?
Oh, yes, yes. This is the one thing that Scientology has upset the world's universities with. They used to say that IQ never changed. Nobody could ever change. Nobody could be any different than anybody ever was. And this was quite interesting because when we finally demonstrated this with their own IQ tests, why, they became very upset and began to test much more widely, and they tested people before Scientology processing and after Scientology processing, and uniformly found that their IQ had raised.
Who's they?
The professors, the fields, the schools of philosophy, schools of psychology, and so on, the nearest organization, and they would go there, and they would get training, or as we call it, processing, and so on.
Can you describe processing?
Processing is the principle of making an individual look at his own existence and to improve his ability to confront what he is and where he is.
To make him look at his own existence.
That's right.
And confront where he is and what he is.
That's right.
How is this brought about?
You just ask the person to look, actually. Of course, you're asking a very technical question.
Does Scientology have any dogma at all? For instance, life after death?
Well, life after death is life after death. And you can't lay down a dogma where you're dealing with fact. And it's very interesting that an individual does survive life after death, but I'm afraid that's too technical a question to go into in a program of this nature.
Are you saying that Scientology has proved this? You said that through Scientology processing, a person was able to look at the problems, to confront the problems that they were facing in their everyday life. Is this some form of hypnotism?
Oh, no. That's very funny. Man is asleep. He is hypnotized. He is made to fixate on certain things, you see, and the process that you normally know as brainwashing and that sort of thing is hypnotizing man. It's forcing him into certain values. It's crowding him by various duress into these values. And he eventually becomes a person who has no awareness. Now, in Scientology, reverse the process, and you make him wake up, and he gradually gets more and more alert. And he's more and more wide awake, and his IQ rises higher and higher, and he is more and more capable of knowing what's going on about him. It's quite the reverse. So any ideology that wants to hypnotize man into believing, well, take communism, for instance, want to hypnotize man into believing he's this or that or the other thing and so forth, it comes a terrible cropper with Scientology, because such a man becomes unbrainwashed, you might say. He becomes unhypnotized. And that was the first thing, one of the first things I discovered about processing, and was actually the basic discovery of processing, that man was asleep, and he had to wake up. And then I went about trying to find out ways and means of how to make him do this, and that became processing.
Do you use drugs in any way?
No, never. Once in a while, Scientologists will take vitamins or something like that to, well, just like anybody else does, but otherwise no drugs.
Is there any equipment used in this processing?
Yes, we have a meter, one of the most misunderstood objects that anybody had anything to do with. And a meter simply shows where an individual is aberrated. And the lie detector, of course, is not a lie detector. It doesn't detect lies. It only detects disagreements. You ask a fellow, did you murder the girl? And he disagrees with murdering the girl. And of course he gets a reaction on the lie detector, and they take him out to the electric chair and electrocute him. Lie detectors are no good. But it does show that he is upset about the idea of murdering a girl. Do you follow? Now,
yes.
If you ask him why he was upset about this particular idea, you might find some relative who had been murdered that he had completely forgotten about. And he illuminates this sector of his life, and it clears.
How would you describe the mental state of a patient during processing?
Well, I've never processed a patient, so I wouldn't know, you see, because patients are people who are sick, and in mental institutions and that sort of thing. And although I've worked with such people just in the normal experience of existence, this has nothing to do with Scientology. But how is he? He's wide awake, bright alert, quite interested, and he is examining things which he had never examined before, and he becomes quite happy about it.
Doesn't he get introverted looking into his unconscious mind?
Yes, but he introverts in order to extrovert. In other words, he is actually handling the things which cause him to be introverted. And when he has handled those things, he extroverts.
You've mentioned a lot about freedom of the mind, Mr. Hubbard, but often this can be mistaken for a form of anarchy, where the person is under no discipline whatsoever.
Well, you find out that man has to be put under discipline to the degree that he is aberrated. And man being basically good, the more you make him free, why, the better his behavior is. And we have, I don't know how many case histories that prove this.
You mentioned aberrated. What does that mean?
Aberrated. Aberrated is a crooked line. That's the definition of the word.
Hungry?